Stand by to initiate release sequencer. On my mark. 5.
We're on express elevator to hell. Going down.
2. 1. Mark.
Hello everyone, my name is Mark, aka Derringer. Today is Sunday, August 20th, and you are listening to episode 119 of the Instant Action Podcast, your weekly source for Planetside 2 news and information. As always, I'm being brought to you by great listeners like you via the Support the Show tab on instantactionpodcast.com. So what have I been up to this past week? Well, a little PS4 play, a little PC play, stuff going on here or there. An injury that I suffered to my foot finally healed, so I played a lot of actual soccer this week as well. Normally I just play once a week. I've played 3 times this week, so unfortunately that happens at night, and when that does, I don't have as much time to log in at night and play Planetside 2. Plus, I've kind of been bit by the magic bug as well. Magic the Gathering, obviously, for those who aren't familiar, but I know probably all of you are familiar with that. I don't know, every now and it surfaces every 3 or 4 years where I'm like, I want to play Magic again. I originally first started playing Magic, it had to be 93, 94, when it came out at Gen Con. I was in college and I had a few friends that went to Gen Con and came back with Magic the Gathering decks, alpha Magic the Gathering decks, and it took off like wildfire amongst my group of friends at college. I still have a whole bunch of alpha and beta cards, and I played the hell out of it. I played tournaments and stuff like that back when there were no restrictions on how many cards you could have in your deck. I know I had a deck that was all lightning bolts and fireballs at one point, and that was kind of super cheese and stuff like that. But I've been kind of bit by that bug again, so I've been playing a little bit of, I haven't so much played a lot of Magic as pulled all of my old Magic stuff out of storage that I have at the house here, and I've been sorting through stuff, trying to put decks back together, been going on to sites like MTG Goldfish and trying to create new decks, trying to learn what this new commander variant of Magic is that sounds interesting, and stuff like that. My stepson will be coming over on Monday when most of you are listening to this show, and we're actually going to sit down and play a little Magic at that point. So yeah, I kind of been bit by that Magic the Gathering bug. Like I said, it comes and goes. Every 3 or 4 years I'm bit by it, and I want to pull all the stuff out and start playing again, and I remember all about it, and maybe I'll attend a Friday night Magic at a game store near me, or who knows. I imagine next, because everything is cyclical, that the next bug that'll bite me will probably be miniatures, Warhammer 40K stuff. I have hundreds of unpainted, unbuilt miniatures sitting in my basement. I'm sure that in a year or so, that's the next bug that's probably going to bite me after I'm done with Magic after a month or so. But that's neither here nor there, because everybody's here to listen to Planetside 2 talk. So what is actually in store for this week's show? Well, first we have a Dev Livestream to discuss. It's been quite a while since we had a Dev Livestream, and it was everything that it was hyped to be. Next, we're going to look a little deeper at the critical mass update. So I'm not going to spend too much time talking about it during the Dev Livestream topic, but I'm going to set aside its own topic to talk about it. Then I have a PS4 patch that was overshadowed by the live stream that I need to talk about. And finally, I'm going to talk a bit about Hitbox modifications on the PC side and the recent ban wave caused by them. So strap in as we hot drop into another episode of the Instant Action Podcast. All right, first up, like I said, was the Dev live stream that occurred on Wednesday, August 16th, and we were joined by Rel and also by Nick Silva, and they started going over Well, first, obviously, they were going to talk about critical mass because that's what's been hyped with this and what is critical mass, which last week I kind of assumed that it was going to be combined arms. Once we actually talk about it, and I'm sure most people know about it by now, it's not really combined arms at all. It's some other stuff. But they said before they got into that, they wanted to show off some new class-specific things that are coming to the game. And they started off with the Light Assault class, which is going to get a new type of jump jets called the Ambusher jump jets. And these are going to allow you to cross large distances quickly. It's really like a jetpack jump jet. They said they likened it to Star Wars Battlefront. Obviously, if you played any of that, you know that you got a nice jump jet in that game itself, which kind of propelled you quickly forward up into the air. And again, it allowed you to cross a large distance, and this is exactly what it looks like within Planetside 2 as well. They are designing it to be a high-skill piece of equipment, though, and they think that veterans are probably going to enjoy it more than newer players will. Newer players should probably stick to the other jump jets like the one that you get for free. As you rank up the Ambusher jump jets, the cooldown itself is going to go down, and Rel was laughing because it's going to sync or synergize pretty well with aerial assault. So much so that if you have max rank of Ambusher and then rank 5 of aerial assault, if you kill somebody with it, it's going to instantly restore your energy on the jump jets, which is going to be kind of interesting. And they've designed it so that it's not necessarily going to replace the use of other jump jets within Planetside 2. It's just going to be a different option of jump jets. And finally, they're designing it to be more expensive to rank up than the other jump jets themselves. They said it's going to be similar to the way Adrenaline Shield is for heavy assaults, that it's a lot more expensive than some of the other ones. And then they tooled around with them a little bit, kind of jumping large distances with the jump jets themselves. I'm looking forward to it coming to test and actually playing around with it. I've been playing a lot of Light Assault recently, so this is right in my wheelhouse. Next, another thing that's right in my wheelhouse, they revealed something coming to the Engineer class, and this is the new Nano Repair Grenades. I'm excited to get a new grenade for the Engineers, and then once I actually heard about what it's going to do, I was even more so. So it's going to cost you 200 certs to actually unlock the Nano Repair Grenade. It's going to cost 75 nanites per grenade to resupply it. You'll note that the other grenades are only 25 nanites, so certainly 3 times more expensive to have these. But when you throw these grenades, they actually will stick to things like vehicles, maxes, stuff like that. They spawned a couple flashes and then stuck the grenade to the front of the flash and drove around with it on it, and it was repairing stuff. There's a 3-second delay before the grenade actually detonates, and after it detonates, it lasts for a full 10 seconds. Now, they were designing this as a support item that a lot of players have been asking for, but they specifically wanted something that didn't take up a utility slot, and hence this is why they came up with this grenade. And the way it also works after, like I said, 3-second delay, lasts a full 10-second. What it's going to do is create a regeneration field. It looks like very similar to the Medic's shield regen field, except not. You couldn't really tell it was there as much. I mean, you saw it, but the graphics weren't as, oh my God, here is the shield regeneration field for the Medics. You couldn't really tell that the Nano Repair Grenade regeneration field was actually there. Like I said, you could kind of see it. You could kind of see the shimmer and know that it was going on, but I think a lot of people would actually miss that that's what's happening within the game itself. Now, the interesting way to make this so they are not overpowered is that these will not be stackable. And on top of that, you can only throw one at a time. So basically, Engineer has them. He throws one. If he goes and throws a second one, the first one is just going to wink out of existence altogether. And when they say that it doesn't stack, it means that if there's already a regeneration field going on and you throw another grenade into it, yours is not going to stack on top of that. So it's not going to be double regeneration. My only question that wasn't answered during the live stream was, what if one is thrown down and then 5 seconds later another one is thrown down? After the 10 seconds of the first one is up, is it going to last another 5 seconds after that from the second one being up, or what exactly is going on? We'll have to get on to test and actually play around with them to see how they work. This is definitely going to add some sort of element of interestingness to max crashes now, because obviously engineers could all line up behind a max and throw one of these on the back of a max, and then as all the maxes run in, it's going to last for 10 seconds. It certainly could keep them up a bit longer. Very interesting, and nano repair grenades are making me excited to go and play engineer a bit again. Hopefully they will also add some sort of line to this on the directives, repairs with a nano repair grenade. That might be more amenable to people rather than trying to grind out the shield barrier directive. But there's been nobody said anything about that we're going to get a directive. That's just me speculating or hoping. Now, after they showed those two things, they kind of hinted that more stuff could be coming, so we could get something new for the other classes, for the heavy assaults, the combat medics, and the infiltrators. I wouldn't expect to see anything for maxes, but that would be nice too. Instead, they introduced a new team member, and his name is Paul Jaggio. And if I said it wrong, I apologize. It's spelled D-Z-I-A-D-Z-I-O, and he said Jaggio, so that's what I'm going with. He's actually a programmer on Planetside 2. Hasn't been heard of, yet they indicated that he's been with Daybreak Games longer than Rel had been with Daybreak Games. And he said that he's been in the industry as a programmer for 6 years. Prior to that, he worked for a company called Reactor Zero, which sounds like it does actually, a little bit of gaming, but mostly simulation type stuff. He didn't go into too much in-depth exactly what the company itself was. But after that, he went and worked for a company called S2 Games, which created Heroes of Newerth, a game that I never played, but Rel absolutely geeked out over when it was announced. So he was very excited for that and seemed to be genuinely excited that Paul was part of the team. But Paul did say that he joined Daybreak Games about a year ago, and that he does play New Conglomerate and a lot of Light Assault. And from there, he was one of the people doing the live stream going forward. So next, they spent some time talking about critical mass. And what is critical mass? It is a set of new continent locking mechanics for the game itself. But on top of that, there's changes to victory points, and there's going to be rewards for actually locking the continents themselves. Like I said, I'm going to spend a little more time on this on the next topic, so I'm going to skip it for now, and we'll talk about the rest of the live stream and then come back to it. So next, they were taking questions from the audience after the critical mass stuff. And something came up specifically about the PlayStation 4, the status of performance, construction, implants, things like that. And they said those are all coming. But the problem was that they had a whole bunch of performance improvements that they had slated to be released on the PlayStation 4, but unfortunately those improvements actually made performance worse. And that caused them to delay everything regarding construction. Now, they do feel confident that those improvements have been corrected, fixed, whatnot, so that they will not affect the PS4 as much, and specifically construction. So expect those improvements to come, and then construction possibly after that. In the next patch, though, they did say we most likely can expect implants on the PlayStation 4. they said next patch, but then Nick kind of waffled and said, or maybe the one after that. So most likely on the PlayStation 4, you're looking at a month, maybe 2 months before implants come. And it sounds like construction should be around that exact same time frame, which is very exciting. And they did specifically say that their goal is for parity between both the PC and the PS4, that they're wasting resources by not having parity between the two systems. So even though at times PlayStation 4 feels like the redheaded stepchild of Daybreak Games, that's not their goal. They want parity between the two systems themselves. Next, there were questions regarding leadership and any changes to leadership that are coming to the game. Rel came out and said leadership changes that they want to make are very UI intensive, and because they are not getting a lot of UI programmer time, that now is not the time to make those changes, but that they are still working on those things in the background, fleshing those things out in the background. So when they do get maybe a UI programmer or more time with a H1Z1 programmer, I don't know, that they can push those things out and have some leadership changes in the game itself. Finally, people were clamoring for info about the NSX Daimyo. They showed what the Daimyo looks like. Nick's character had it equipped and on the screen, so we saw it. But they gave no other info, but Rel did say that we can expect the Daimyo to come to the PTS with whatever the next patch is. So don't worry, we will see the Daimyo sooner rather than later. And that itself wrapped up the live stream. I was so happy for the live stream. It was at a decent time for me. Like I said, it was on Wednesday. It was at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. 7 Eastern is perfect. I could carve out some time from 7 to 8 because it was about an hour long to watch the live stream and take notes and all kinds of stuff like that. I will say I'm extremely excited for the critical mass stuff, which I'll talk about next. Also, the jump jets and the repair grenade are exciting, and I'm happy that they aren't treating PS4 like a second-class citizen, even though it still feels that way at times, that they do want parity between the two systems. So live stream came to a close, but let's move on and talk more about critical mass. All right, critical mass. Very exciting stuff. And this took up the majority of that live stream also. That's why I wanted to give it its own separate topic. There's also a post on the Daybreak Games forums about critical mass, what exactly it is and what is exactly going to happen. Now, the first thing they showed off about critical mass is that image that everybody's seen of the beams of light or the orbital strike beams coming down onto the continent itself. They said that that's what's going to happen when you actually lock a continent going forward. It's going to be mass orbital strikes hitting everywhere on the map. If you get hit by one of them and you are an enemy, you're going to die from it most likely. It doesn't look like it really affects friendlies as much, but maybe it will when it actually comes to test. But what exactly is happening within critical mass? So first off, there are these new continent lock mechanics. And what they're looking to do is foster more impactful fights, create a stronger sense of accomplishments when you actually conquer one. So when they release critical mass, they said perhaps later this month. I was hoping for later this week, but maybe we'll get it actually this week. We could, because the end of the month is right around the corner. We got two weeks left. So certainly we're going to see this before the end of August. So again, what it's going to do is change how continent locking works. And a lot of it is centered around the victory point system itself. The screens that they showed within the live stream were not the final victory point screens that we're going to see, but they were so streamlined and so, I don't want to say dumbed down, but definitely there wasn't as much to it as before. They were just showing, really two things that you could do. One is getting a couple points from mining cordium, and that obviously became from having hives and things like that. But the majority of it was regarding how much territory that you controlled on the continent itself. So previously, that victory point system had acted like a checklist. You'd complete various objectives, and then you'd get points rewarded every time you completed them. So you could tap a warp gate, you get a couple points. Capture facilities, you get a couple points. All that has been completely thrown out the window. Again, now it's just straight territory control. And the reason that they were doing this is because they felt that those victory points were kind of awarding things that were happening in the past, and not so much, what was actually going on with the game itself. And they also want to bring some sort of a stronger sense of connection between your action as a player or squad, and how it actually impacts the win or loss of the continent itself. So to achieve that, they're removing random alerts altogether from the game itself. And they say at least for the time being, because they're more interested in actually having a focused nature of alerts and the fights that they generate. But they also don't want victories or losses to feel punctuated, and they want them to be more meaningful. So, like I said, that set of checklists is completely gone. It's going to be so much shorter, and they're actually reducing it to a 10-point maximum. And that itself is actually no longer going to automatically lock the continent. Instead, when one faction reaches that 10-point maximum, and that's between territory held and cordium and things like that, and hives and things like that, that is actually going to trigger the alert. And they're referring to them as meltdown alerts. And what that alert is going to do is it's going to require the initiating faction to defend territory for the duration of the alert. And if that faction can defend enough of their territory, they're going to get a victory, and the continent itself is going to lock. If that faction can't defend enough territory, then they're going to lose the points earned through cordium refinement and need to once again regain them. And they're also going to lose any territory lost during the points for territory lost during the alert itself, before getting another shot at locking the continent itself. And this is designed to give the other two factions time to catch up as well. I'm really excited for this. And initially, this made it sound like there was going to be a lot of 2 against 1 ganging up within the game itself. And I certainly see that as a negative for the game. But let's be honest. Lately, it seems like one faction on every continent or every server is absolutely out-dominating the other two factions, and maybe it's time for a little 2-on-1 to occur within the game itself, to maybe remove some of the players from that overpopped faction and play some of the other factions. I mean, I can't tell you the last time I played Terran Republic on Emerald, because they always seem to be the overpopped faction on the continent itself. So maybe some of this 2-on-1 action is going to change the makeup of the 3 factions itself. Now, let's talk about rewards for these meltdown alerts, because I think this is probably the best part of it. So if you are the faction that, well, let's take a step back, because everybody who plays in the meltdown alert itself are going to receive an amount of ISO 4 for participating in the alert itself. And it's going to scale with the amount of time that you spent in the alert itself. So if you participate in the entire hour, because these meltdown alerts will last for a full hour, you're going to gain the maximum amount of ISO 4, whether your faction is victorious or not. That's a key point that we want to take away. So if your faction finished next with the least amount of territory controlled in the alert, you're also going to receive the least amount of ISO 4. If your faction didn't trigger the alert but did end up with the most territory at the end, you're going to receive a moderate amount of ISO 4. But if your faction triggered the alert and won the alert, you'll receive the most amount of ISO 4, as well as a loot box reward. Loot box rewards are something new. Now, factions that initiate the alert and are victorious, again, they lock the continent itself. They're going to receive an item reward on top of the ISO 4. This is what's going to be in that loot box. These rewards could range from consumables to weapons to cosmetics, and they're always going to give you an item you do not already own, except for consumables. You could get consumables that you already own. You may even find equipment drops that you can't purchase directly out of the depot itself, which is pretty exciting. And I'm trying to think what those things could be. I'm guessing maybe the special knife that was given away at SOE Live is the first thing that comes to mind. That's kind of cool. I mean, I own it, and I hate to see other people with it, but maybe something like that. And so moving along, similar to the ISO 4 scaling, the item drop is given only to players who have participated for the majority of the alert. And this is designed to discourage players from swapping from their faction to the winning faction as much as possible. And that they're actually going to be looking at this behavior when the system goes live itself, because they don't want to be rewarding people with items if you realize that your faction's not going to win the alert, so you switch over to the faction that's going to potentially win the alert just so you can get some sort of item. So it really is going to reward people that are playing for the full hour when this alert goes off. So that's the critical mass kind of in a nutshell. I'm very excited about this. I want this on test as soon as humanly possible. Unfortunately, PlanetSide 4, PlayStation 4 folks, I don't know if you guys are actually going to be getting this the same time as PC folks, and the reason is because of the cordium mining stuff. Since you guys don't have construction, you don't have ants, you can't do cordium mining, unless they sort of have some sort of separate thing that's just territory way for PS4. Again, I don't see this coming to you guys the same time that it comes to the PC. And obviously, I mean, who knows? It could spend its time on the PTS for a while before it comes to live, and then by the time it's ironed out all the bugs on the PTS, maybe by then PS4 will have both construction and implants, and then maybe it can come to PS4. But who knows? There's no indication exactly of what that is at this point. But either way, Critical Mass is exciting, and I'm really looking forward to it. All right, third up this week is the PS4 game update that was really overshadowed by the Dev Livestream. This dropped on August 14th in the EU and August 16th on the US. Like I said, smack dab in the middle of all the hype regarding this live stream, and I heard nothing about this update after the Dev Livestream news came out. But a patch did drop. A game update did drop on the PlayStation 4. And the biggest stuff within this, because I'm not going to spend too much time on it, it's a lot of the same stuff that we got on the PC not too long ago. But a big one is that the number of continents that can be locked at any time was increased to 3, up from 2. And the number of players needed to open a second continent was changed from 900 down to, changed from 600 up to 900. So again, this is something that came to the PC, and it's to work with off-hour times to keeping continents locked when there aren't enough players to support 3 continents being open at any time, or more than 2 continents being open at any time. This is going to keep it. We could really have 1 for a lot of time. Based on the number of players. Again, I talked about this last week on the, or 2 weeks ago when it all came to PC. Next, you guys got all the Indar changes, the lattice links that were added between Howling Pass and Mao Watchtower, between Mao Southeast Gate and Mao Watchtower, between Targe Tower and Targe Depot, and between Havar Databank and Havar Physics Lab. You got the base and world design changes that were made to the Palisades, Indar Bay Point, Tarich Recycling, Ennis Secure Data Lab, Regent Rock Garrison, TI Alloys, Indar Eastern Warp Gate, the Indar Comm Array, Dahaka Southern Post, Series Hydroponics, Crimson Bluff Tower, Feldspar Canyon Base. In addition, you got all those great changes that were made to the crown. These are worth talking about because the western cliff face is now no longer easily accessible to vehicles. They increased the coverage on the rock bridge to the east that goes to TI Alloys. A northern cliff face received new routes and more cover for Sunders and infantry coming up to it. A vehicle capturable point was added to the base of the northern cliff. The capture point on the southern bridge was moved to an underground area accessible from the south and east. The capture point on the eastern bridge was moved to the top of the eastern plateau. They added some more cover density to the east. They removed the jump pads altogether. They added a northern vehicle pad. They cut off some of the tower geometry that was close to the west-facing routes. And an additional road was added beneath the bridge to the south of the crown for easier access to TI Alloys. They changed that ammo tower position to conceal vehicles that were coming out and also reduced the stagnation to vehicles that are pulling from the southern pass. Again, these are all big changes that came to the crown itself. Next, biolabs. All the biolabs on Indar received the cover passes that the ones on the other continents got. This is in addition to the opaque domes itself. They've also got all those various performance improvements that the other ones got as well. And then we had some other changes, seabed listening post howling path in particular. You also got access to the new NS-45 Pilot. That's the neat little 3-shot burst pistol. You also got access to the heat wave weapons. These are the NS-50 Gorgons, the NS-11A, and the NS Decimator. Those are all bundled in the depot itself now. Also got access to the Mayhem Directive, which rewards kills, which rewards directive points when using kills using the Ravenous or the newly added Heatwave weapons. And if you complete the Mayhem Directive, you get a brass variant of the NS-45 pistol. The personal shield changes that came to infantry on the PC also hit the PS4. Shield delay before recharging went from 10 seconds down to 6 seconds. Engineer 8 to 4 seconds. The shield regeneration rate went from 4 seconds to 6 seconds. The advanced shield capacitor cert line now increases the rate at which shield health regenerates instead of reducing the delay before charging. Rank 1 shields are going to regen over 4 seconds. Rank 5 over 3 seconds. And again, this change was made so that personal infantry shields have will now changes to how quickly they begin recharging. Then that's to help mitigate stagnant gameplay around choke points, while also increasing survivability in open field flights. Jump Jet's got some changes as well. These are the altered visuals that match cosmetic armors. C4 got some fixes as well. When you attach to a vehicle, it shouldn't look like it's floating behind it anymore. You got access to some of the cosmetics like the Nomad armor, the Zealot armor, the Contra helmet series, the HSG-1 Max helmet. Also, your vehicle handling changes on the Lightning Prowler and Vanguard should be resolved on the PS4 now. And finally, the Racer chassis on the Harasser also got handling adjustments to complement its intended feel. Again, these are a lot of the things that came to PC not too long ago and indicates, again, their desire for parity between the two systems that they talked about in the Dev Livestream. Now we can just sit back and hope that implants and construction are ultimately coming to the PlayStation 4. And with that, let's move on to our last topic this week. So finally this week I want to talk about Hitbox modifications because we got a new video uploaded to Reddit, put up there by PS2 Stop Hack, which clearly isn't this person's regular account. It's just a new account that they made so that they could show off this video that they showed. And basically it specifically told people how to change hitboxes on players and also showed how to change hitboxes on flying vehicles, ESFs, things like that. And PS2 Stop Hack said that the post was dedicated to the upcoming live stream, wanted people to ask about it, ask about the hitbox modifications that are still going on. He wrote that 4 years ago, while it was still in closed beta, players were reporting about client weaknesses, and it's 4 years later, and there's no remedy or protection for it. And really, it's just a cry by this person to make fights fair within the game itself. Now, interesting thing about now that once this video came to light, and I watched it the day it came out and was like, damn, I want to, I know this is cheating and let's get this crap out of the game. The video shows like literally person couldn't miss when they were hitting infantry. And when they had ESFs on their screen, you could actually see the weapons detached from the ESFs, showing that the hitbox was so much larger because clearly the ESF weapons are bolted onto the hitbox, and you could see the vehicles were just so much bigger and so much easier to hit. Could barely miss. He was landing Dalton shots like crazy, and I know he said he was not the actual creator of this video itself, but just edited it for the person who created the video. Now, again, like I said, once this video came live and everybody saw it, PS2 Stop Hack's main account was banned, and a number of players actually were banned. MEPS responded to the post itself and explained that about 55 accounts got banned, 20 unique PCs. So it seems that this is not as widespread as people think, but certainly 55 accounts worth were banned. And he explained what exactly happened and why these bans didn't actually go into effect immediately like they should have. Now, he said the detection for this has been turned on, but the auto kick process for it was disabled in a patch back in May. And I guess maybe they didn't know that it was turned off, but regardless, they processed about 3 months worth of hitbox modification bans once this video actually came live. He said apparently a handful of people using test accounts thought they were safe, switched to their main accounts, and oops, you got banned. So it's good to see that they are actively taking it, but the real takeaway from this is that detection was on for this, yet it was disabled. How many other things like this were disabled in the patch back in May that we don't know about, and hackers and cheaters in the game might have been running rampant? I don't think that we'll ever get an answer regarding that. So hopefully PS2 Stop Hack continues to post things like this. I would love to see more stuff come out. Show it to Daybreak Games. You know, let's get cheaters like this kicked out of the game like this particular one did. I hope they unban PS2 Stop Hack's main account, because clearly he was just doing this to show that it was something going on in game, not something he's doing 100% of the time. Will that happen? I don't really know. But regardless, let's wrap up this longer than normal show and move on to housekeeping.
Housekeeping. Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
Housekeeping.
Go away.
I coming anyway?
So I did get one email this week, and it was from Matt9, and Matt9 writes, "Thanks for another great show. I recently arrived back from 9 months where I was unable to access the game. But I listened to your show weekly and stayed connected with what was going on in Planetside 2. I'm back now and enjoying the game again without as steep of a relearning curve. Thanks for doing the show every week." Matt9, comments like that are the reason that I continue to put on this podcast, because I like giving people news about the game itself, and for players like you who haven't been able to play for whatever reason, you're able to jump right back in and kind of know exactly what's going on. You're not the only person that has reached out to me and said, I haven't been playing, I'm not playing, I'm tired of Planetside 2, I need to take a break, but I continue to listen to your show so that I can continuously hear what's going on, and if someone strikes my fancy, I'll jump back into the game itself. So Matt9, thank you for being a loyal listener, and thank you to everybody else who does exactly what Matt9 does. So that is going to be it, though, for this week's show. How can you get in touch with me or the show itself? As always, you can go to my website, www.instantactionpodcast.com. You can email me like Matt9 did, instantactionshow@gmail.com. You can call me, leave me a voicemail. That's numbers 347-4VM-4PS2 or 347-486-4772. Follow me on Twitter. It's at InstActPodcast, or you can always follow my personal Twitter is at The Derringer. So in closing, if you've enjoyed the show, please leave me a review on your podcast listening avenue of choice, whether it's iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, or anywhere else. Also, feel free to tell your friends and outfit mates about the show. And finally, thanks for listening, and keep spamming that Join Combat, formerly known as Instant Action button.